Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
To hell and back is in the job description. Being roughed up, scuffed up, run over, kicked, thrown, dropped, dunked, and done the unthinkable is a duty we've embraced for more than 40 years. Through superior engineering and constant innovation, only Pelican has conquered the chaos a life of ambition can dish out. And we've done it to empower you.
Welcome to the Reel Down on Paddle and Fin with your hosts, Dan Perry and Jimmy Skinner, where we talk about everything tournament kayak fishing. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Reel Down on Paddle and Fin. How you doing, Jimmy?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good. Just busy. We're kind of a little bit of time crunch tonight. So the first, we have a great show, winners, top three of the Hobie B.O.S. on Sam Rayburn, and that'd be great. But first, we want to give a second for, we're going to invite on Marc Coats here. So we lost one of our own this week. We lost, I've never met him, Jody Efird. He was a kayak angler, and just wanted to kind of have you on for a second, Marc, and kind of talk about the man, what happened. And I know KBBT, y'all are doing a little bit of a benefit deal, so just wanted to give you a floor and, let you talk about one of our own.
Man, I really appreciate it. For those of people that didn't know, Jody Efird with Efird Outdoors was a huge supporter of the kayaking community. Decided he was actually going to fish his first kayak tournament this last Sunday. He had been training 3 weeks for it, and we went down to Texas, and he was going to fish it on Sunday. And man, before I get into it, I just gotta say that man donated so many of his baits across the United States. Just loved everybody in kayak fishing, loved watching it, watched all the podcasts out there. He was obsessed with everybody. Knew people that had no idea who he was, but would always call me and be like, "Hey, do you know Conrad Benetti? I love watching this guy." I mean, it was just that kind of person. And the best person to talk to in the world out there. He loved and cared about everybody and was the most generous man you'd ever met. Saturday, he went out and decided he was going to practice one morning before the tournament just to make sure his pattern was still good. And he went out and busted two bass, one over 7 pounds and another one over 5, both of them over 20 inches. And I talked to him that morning and said, "Hey, I'm running out there right."
And Marc's on break at work, so his service isn't that good, but we're lucky to have him. He's only got a few minutes here. Hopefully he'll come right back here.
Sorry, I'm back.
No,
That's my phone.
You're good.
I was about 10 minutes away from the ramp, and his wife, April, texted me and said, "Check on Jody. I think something wrong." And long story short, I pulled up, and he was collapsed on the ground. I won't get into the major details, but his aorta had exploded after a massive heart attack. And he essentially didn't make it. But it was a tough weekend. KBT is doing a benefit tournament. It's the Toad Smoker tournament. Pretty much anything topwater, all the benefits go to the family. Jody was he was a great supporter of everybody and everything, and it's been a tough weekend.
Sounds like it, man. I feel for you, and I feel for the family. You being the first one there, I know that's a lot, man. A lot of stress. Nothing, especially when it's completely out of your hands like that, man. I know.
Man, it was awakening, man, and it really makes you, think about how be thankful for every day that you have. And man, the best thing, the last picture on his phone that he sent out to everybody was a 7-pound bass. So, at least, the day that he went, he got to do what he loved to do, and that was get out there and get in his kayak.
Hell yeah.
But, just huge shout out to his family. And I know a lot of kayak anglers are asking about it. A lot of people have reached out and asked where they can send flowers. You're welcome to private message me. I'll let you know. Anybody that is close to the area, the funeral services are going to be held this Friday at Lake DeGray State Park. It's just a little drop-in memorial for him. Any other details, hey, y'all just let me know. But big shout out to everybody. Everybody's kind of dealing with it their own way, but he loved everybody. That was the main thing about it, and had a huge footprint out here with all of us around this area.
And where can everybody find the information for the event?
You can go to the KBBT page. It's on there. It's on Fishing Chaos. It's the Toad. I believe it's listed as the Toad Smoker Challenge. If you have any problems finding it, you can always message me or Greg. We'll get you the link right away. It pretty much it just entails anything topwater. You could use Jody's baits, which were the Toad Smokers. You can use frogs, spooks, buzz baits, anything topwater. We're just trying to help raise money for the family.
There you go. All right, man. Well, we know you got to get back in there and make some. You make windows, right?
Well, we sell windows. I've worked with Windows USA.
There you go. All right. Well, shout out to Windows USA. Everybody's got to have windows, I guess.
Absolutely. It's definitely a mandatory thing you got to have in your household.
Yeah, unless you live in a cave, you got to have a window or a glass block. But those glass block people, we don't like them. So
there's never going to be a point in time that someone doesn't need windows in their house.
There you go.
I'm sure Elon Musk can find a way around that. Just give it time.
Well, get signed up for the tournament, and we appreciate you coming on, man.
Hi, man. Thanks for having me. Big shout out to
prayer for his family, please.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Thank y'all a whole lot. I'll let y'all get to your show. I appreciate you bringing me on, man. And, prayers out to all the Efird family and everybody out there, all the anglers affected. And I'll let y'all get back to your show, brother.
Good deal.
Right.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, and after that, we'll try to pep it up here. We're going to have a giveaway later in the show. I don't even know what it's called. I got it. I don't even know what it's called. The new rod stager?
It's the Yak Gadget. I think it is called the Slide Stager. It's the new horizontal rod storage system for your track mounts from Yak Gadget that is adjustable on the horizontal plane, so you can move them in close to the seat, away from the seat. It holds two rods and a paddle, or 3 rods. It's got his paddle grip integrated into the middle of it. I should have took a picture of one. And
yeah, well, we'll bring it up before the end of the show. But it sits out. If you want to keep your rods horizontally, especially if you're scanning water and try to stay under trees, it sits out on the out past the gunnel of your boat. So if you're trying to keep your rods horizontally, it's a brand new product, just came out. I'm not even sure they're on a website yet. If they are, they just went up. But
I know it. I mean, it just came out on the social media stuff. We got to product test them. They're killer. You don't realize how much having the rods at the ready right there actually improves your day. So take a look at them. I think everybody's gonna like them.
Yeah, very cool. And I mean, we're sponsored by Yak Gadget, both of us, and the show. But I mean, it's Yak Gadget. They're coming out with some amazing products.
Oh, it is on the website. It's called the Flex Rod Stager System.
There you go, Flex Rod Stager System. Look at it, and later in the show, we'll talk about how you can win, and I'll send it out tomorrow to you. All right, so let's get back to the main show. Hobie B.O.S, Sam Rayburn. We have the top 3. We have Bryan Scarberry, Jim Ware, and Caleb Helbig. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. How's it going?
Glad to have y'all.
Yeah, thank y'all for being on.
Super jealous I didn't get to go to Texas. Sam Rayburn's definitely on the list, but I hear everything's super high and muddy right now. So
The fish still bit.
That's right.
Hey, clearly you got a couple checks back there to talk about.
I mean,
But,
it was wild the whole practice. I mean, there was fish biting everywhere.
Brian's having some internet issues, but hopefully it gets those figured out. Caleb, you've been on the show before, but go ahead and give everybody a shout out and let them know who you are and how you got into kayak fishing.
Caleb Helbig. I'm from Conroe, Texas. I started, I guess, competing in tournaments about a year ago. There were some local clubs. I've been fishing just kind of on the weekends and stuff like that. Before that, there were some local clubs and trails around here that I decided to come out one weekend, and I've been hooked ever since. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. Hobie, this is my first Hobie B.O.S. tournament, and I plan on trying to follow them around and doing some more national tournaments here in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if they all go this way, you gotta keep going, man.
Yeah. I definitely will, and I don't know how much I'll be able to do this year, but next year I plan on trying to follow around a few more of their events and make it out to quite a few if I can.
There we go. And Brian, if you keep having issues, Brian, you can just go audio only instead of camera. I'll mute him here for a second.
I was trying to, and it wouldn't let me. I was going to send him a message, but it wouldn't let me.
Not letting
Well,
me
yeah,
go.
Caleb, that's for this to be your first one to do so well, you kind of got to follow them around now, man. You got to make a run.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I jumped into it is because Sam Rayburn's about 2 hours away from where I live. I haven't fished a whole lot, but I know I've got enough understanding of the lake and knowing other people that fish it, and just kind of knowing Southeast Texas and how it fishes in general. Kind of, I felt like I had a little edge, but and then with the water being up, it kind of at least in my mind, a lot of pre-fishing and things like that kind of wasn't going to help out too many people, just because everything was so spread out. It was already a huge lake. When it's 10, 11 foot high, it makes it even bigger and more challenging to break down.
I bet 10 or 11 feet. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, for any of y'all, give us a rundown of how Sam Rayburn normally is. Right now, it sounds like it's just a lot deeper and muddy. But how does it usually play out and fish, and what kind of reservoir is it?
Well, and really in mid-lake, kind of where I was fishing. I'm sure the north end and up in the creeks was a lot muddier, but where I was fishing was actually really clear water. Had a stain to it, but most places I had a foot or two, couple feet of visibility, at least where I was fishing. But I'm sure you get off in the creeks, it was fairly muddy. But Rayburn's usually an awesome lake. It gets a lot of pressure, but it has a ton of fish, and some of the, I mean, it's probably one of the number one bass fishing lakes in the state of Texas, and maybe even the nation. And it puts out some big fish. And typically has a lot of pressure on it, but thankfully, with as high as the water is, and with probably 75% of the ramps being shut down on the lake, there was only a few, maybe just little tournaments with a few groups of people, but didn't see near the pressure that it normally did. And we as kayakers kind of had the lake to ourselves. I don't think I ever really had to fish around anybody, or I'd see a few people here and there, but with being up so high and everybody kind of being able to launch from the roads and bridges and things like that, there was a lot of places that were accessible to launch from kayaks, but not really from boats. So it was a fun weekend.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that probably plays out to your favor too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jim, how about you, man? You've never been on here, have you? Have you been on here before?
No, I was on the Noob Show.
Noob Show. Well,
I knew you'd been on the podcast in some way. I just couldn't remember which show.
Yeah, where I was at, it was it wasn't muddy. It had a good stain to it. Perfect. And when I was expecting it to be muddy, but it wasn't. It just had a really good stain to it. And type of water I fish here at home.
Heck yeah.
So, since you haven't been on before, and you're kind of a legend around, I know here in Alabama, everybody knows your name. Tell people who you are if they don't know.
I'm Jim Ware from Rome, Georgia, and I've been kayak fishing for about 15 years. Just
The OG.
Just kind of, hell, I didn't even know there was a kayaking community. I work at a paper mill, crazy swing shift. So I'd go by myself all the time, and had a boat stolen, posted on Facebook a long time ago, and if anybody saw it, called me. And all of a sudden, this kayaking community just erupted, and shared it, and I got friends immediately from it, and it's been great. I hadn't met a bad person out of the whole group, I don't think.
I think most of us can say that. We may have found something we don't like as much as others, but I can honestly say I haven't found anybody I just don't like.
Right.
I know.
You might get a bad vibe. You meet them in person, they're different. That's
just like a bunch of brothers and sisters. There's sometimes you probably want to smack them in the head, but
yeah. But I've had this. It's been a blessing to me. This whole kayak, the whole trip. Hopefully there's more to come.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
All right, Brian. How about you, man? Who are you? Tell the people who you are, man.
All right. Well, I finally got some of those technical difficulties out of the way. I don't know what was going on with my signal. I hope you guys can hear me all right now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So my name is Bryan Scarberry. I live in Boerne, Texas, a little bit north of San Antonio. I've been tournament fishing since I was in high school, mostly out of a bass boat when I first got started. And then, had a kid and some other stuff came up and working a lot. So fishing took a back seat for a number of years, and I'm starting to get back into it. And kayaking really fits my style a little bit better as far as the low maintenance and stuff like that. It's way better than having to deal with a bass boat. So I'm really happy to finally get a good rhythm going with the kayaking. And I guess I started fishing cats last year. Did pretty good in cats, so I'm fishing cats again this year, and this was my first Hobie B.O.S. event, and it turned out pretty good. I'm super excited to fish in Eufaula, but I'm kind of worried now. It seems like old Jim over there's got some local knowledge, a little bit of an advantage. So
he's on the other end of the state.
Yeah, Eufaula. I've never fished it, man. But
really,
you can.
Right,
between now and November, I'll be burning roads up down there.
Eufaula is like I've lived in Alabama my whole life. It's down southeast of us. Yeah, it's like the lake around here that like nobody talks about, and it's not like a distance thing. Obviously all your serious anglers travel, but like just like picking people's knowledge and stuff that travel and fish, it seems like none of them go mess with that lake, which blows my mind because the fishing is supposed to be so good. I mean, the city is like dedicated to bass fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Really, but I started watching some of the MLF events that have been there, and I mean, the average fish is like 4 pounds. It's pretty impressive.
When they hit it last year, they hit it at like the perfect time.
Really.
Yeah, it was. I watched that coverage live last year, and it was not quite as good as Mark Daniels on Lake Fork last year when he was just catching all those spawners. But some of the fish they were catching, it was kind of insane.
Oh, I know.
And those guys were doing it this weekend. I can't even remember, what are they on? I think they were on Chickamauga.
Yeah, Chickamauga.
Man, it's for everybody that hates on MLF about it being a dink fest. They've sure been catching some monster fish this year. I love it.
Well, once they started changing that, once they imparted the limit, where they can only weigh in like a 2-pound fish, I think that changed a lot, because before those guys were just trying to catch numbers, and now they know that they got to find a little bit above average fish to even get it on the scales. So So it's changed a little bit. It's man, I love that format. I wish we can get something like that going for kayaking, but there's not much room on a Pro Angler 14 for a boat official. So
yeah.
I fished there once. It's one of those places where you can kind of pick your poison. You can catch them offshore. You can catch them shallow. You can, as long as you stay away from the gators, you're okay. But it's got a little bit of everything. So that's the good part about it.
What's really funny is that it reminds me a lot of Rayburn. It's kind of set up the same. A lot of grass. It's got deep water. It's got rock. It's got grass. It's got shallow vegetation, stumps. Water clarity is really similar to Rayburn. So it's kind of seems like a home away from home for us Texas guys.
Oh,
yeah,
I think the Texas guys are getting that trash talk started a little bit. They think they got it already.
Those guys got to watch out, man. It's gonna be fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
I would love to make that one. Right now it's not working with a schedule, but I just want to go down there. Like, it doesn't matter what for. I just want to go down there and fish that lake.
Yeah.
I put in for vacation for it today.
There you go.
I did too. I told him, I was like, I know it's a few months out, but I'm gonna make sure I get this week off.
Right.
There you go.
Same here.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll start with practice. Jim, we'll start with you since you're up top.
Okay.
Tell us about your practice. How long you get to practice, and how was it?
I practiced. I got there Monday night, and actually drove down, hit the bridge at about 9 o'clock. It was almost dark, and caught one off the bridge. I don't know what highway that is, right there at Broadus, and just fishing off the bank. And then Tuesday, I settled in on the south end of the lake for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I didn't realize that lake was so full of spots. There's so many spotted bass, at least down on that south end. But I did catch a couple of good fish down there, but the spots were just overwhelming. My plan, I moved up. I camped at Jackson Hill in Mid Lake, and so on Thursday I went, which my plan was to fish offshore, or at least start offshore, and so I was looking at areas that would have been, 8 to 15 foot at normal pool, and now it was 18, 25, and so I was catching, but not numbers. I couldn't find a congregation of good fish down there on the south end. Come up on the north end, I had probably my personal best. Got off next to the boat, 24 foot on a brush pile, but that was the only bite I got off of it, and that was Thursday. Friday, there was a spot I had picked out with map study a month prior, and Jay, I don't know what it was about that area. Satellite imagery had tons of lily pads, and I wanted to just go over there and see what these lily pads were going to look like under 10 foot of water. That was, and surprisingly, there were some of them that had made it to the top. So I get over there, and actually get a little close, but then those flooded trees will suck you right into it. They look so fishy, and you get suckered in. And there was people that caught fish in the flooded trees. I couldn't. When I got suckered in there and spent a couple of hours and come out and was, I was defeated. I felt that way. I was following the creek channel out, and right where that old creek channel, and it's only like 10 foot wide, right where that creek channel normally would have dumped into the main creek out there, there was just a huge school of fish. And initially, I was, no way that's bass. So I tossed a 1 ounce spinner bait out there and pulled it through them, caught a 17 incher. Caught 4 or 5, wanted to see a big one. Finally got one about 6 pounds up next to the boat, and it got off. So I was settled on that. That was my spot. So I moved, go try to find a little backup, maybe another couple of creek channels that I could check that may be the same. And I didn't find anything else. And I had to pass back by there, and temptation got the best of me, and I threw a big worm out there, and first cast thump. And I didn't set matter of fact, I buried the worm, the hook inside this Berkeley power worm. And I just let the fish run, and I kept pinching on it, and it came up and spit the worm, and she was a 5 or 6 pounder. So I told my mother that night that she said, did you find some big fish? And I said, if they're there tomorrow, it's going to be a good one. And
nobody else is there.
Yeah, zero people. I saw about six, maybe 10 or 12 bass boats on day one. Never, not one of them came close to me. Day two, there was only like 6 or 8 bass boats that I saw buzz by out on the main water. And but I'm sitting probably 100, 150 yards off outside of the flooded tree line. And this area was maybe the size of 2 tennis courts. And I sat there for both days, and I leaned on them as hard as I could, and first day that, I had a big one hit, right after a storm blew through. She ate a Shock Blade Pro. And then on day 2, I just couldn't get a big bite, but they were still there. They had moved a little bit, went off into the ditch. But yeah, limit by 645 both days, and just a blue collar stringer where you called 1/4 of an inch at a time, all day. And
I've never heard it called that before. I love that.
It was hard.
Blue collar stringer.
Yeah, it was work. Luckily I was catching a ton of fish, but they're all the same size. And I had 0 cell service, and every now and then to get somehow a message come in from my wife, and she would tell me, and she was like, Scarberry is hammering them. I got a message from, you need 2 big ones. And I was like, well, I'm doing my best.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, bring home some money.
Yeah. You'd have to know her, but she's 1 in a million. She's, she kicks me in the ass when I need it, and loves on me when, she's a good one. She'd be a great football coach.
So you kind of had all your eggs in one basket then. How do you manage those fish over 2 days then? Like, how do you know if you're catching cookie cutters, how do you know when to stop on day 1?
Well, on day 1 at 11 o'clock, like I said, the day before I'd had 2 big fish, get off. And so I knew they were there. And they did, matter of fact, early in the morning on day 1, I set the hook on and it felt like a good fish, but and lost it. But I knew that they were in that area. I just had to. I think in my mind, I got to weed through all these smaller fish, and eventually the big one's going to hit. And she did. It's 22 and a half on day 1. Day 2, I could have loaded up and drove. It would have took me about 45 minutes to drive around to this one single brush pile out on the ledge where I had that big one. And I'm telling you, my brain was really hammering on me to move. And I'm not going to leave fish to find fish. This place was absolutely loaded with fish. And
to protect them too, just sitting on your spot, keeping other people back too, Right.
I had one. Shane Kitchens is from Dallas. I met him. He's a super nice guy. He came around, but he stopped and actually went behind me and went around. We chatted, and he was super respectful. He was the only kayak angler I saw. I didn't have any other.
Look for Jim.
Yeah, I didn't have any other options, so I just leaned on them as hard as I could, and it turned out pretty good. I'm happy. I'm super happy, and hats off to Scarberry, man. That was a show. I wish that they would have filmed that. I'd like to see how it all played out with you on day 2.
Yeah. I need to get a camera for sure. That's definitely on the list. I have cameras. I just haven't messed with them.
Did you hoot and holler?
Oh, dude, that 22 and a half, man.
Yeah.
She was short and stout. She's like a 10-pounder head on a 22 and a half inch body. So she came up out of the water, and I was making really long casts. And so, she hit it in the long cast. So she came up and jumped, and I was like, holy crap. That's a giant. I've caught double digits, and I would have sworn to you that was a double digit for sure. I don't know how much she weighed. She probably was, close, but when I put her on the board and she was only 22 and a half, I was like, there's no way. There's no way this isn't a 23, 24.
I'm telling you, a catch board will hurt your feelings and take your pride right from you. Because I've caught some with, like you said, with a head that does not match the body. And when I put it on the board, I caught one last year, just like you said. When I hooked it and pulled it up, we were all freaking out, like 10-pounder. Because, you could stick both your fists in its mouth. Dude, it was a monster. When we got it on the board, it was 20 and a quarter. And I was just like, what? Like, he must have hit something head on and just shrank. Like,
yeah.
But talking about y'all's numbers, we didn't go over them. I'll just put them out real quick right here. So, day 1, Jim, you were first with 93 and 3/4 with that big 22 and a half. Caleb, you were third with 89 and 3/4 with a 23, which you're going to have to tell us about here in a second. And then Brian, you were 7th with 86 and 1/4 on day 1. And then day 2, Brian, you had an excellent day. First place, the 97 inches for 20 with that 22 and a half inch. Caleb, you were 8th with 86 and a half. And Jim, you were 14th with 83 and 3/4. So it's a little bit slower, but you still, you put 2 good stringers together and showed why a 2-day tournament works the way it does.
Right.
So Caleb, tell us a little bit about your day.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, tell us about your practice and your tournament.
Okay, so I really didn't have a practice. I wasn't even really. I didn't know if I could fish this tournament until I guess the week of. I signed up the last day there was to sign up. Got to Rayburn around midday Friday. I probably could have gotten on the lake for a few hours, but I didn't know what ramps were open. I didn't know which places were accessible to launch. So I just drove around for a few hours looking at different ramps, looking at different back roads that had launchable access off the county roads and things like that. And so that's really all I did was just scout some ramps and get a feel for what the water looked like and what everything looked like out there. And then on tournament day, I kind of had an area just from little previous knowledge of the lake and just from looking at maps and things like that. I had an area that I wanted to go to, and on tournament day, I went there, found an area where people weren't fishing, and I just kind of, it was a good sized area, but I pretty much just hit that area all day long, both days, and I wasn't having to fish over the same water a whole lot, but I worked pretty thoroughly in one good chunk of, normally dry land, but now you're in, I found the bank in some areas and fish all the way out to 10 or 15 foot, but still fishing in areas that are normally dry land.
Well, what was the craziest thing y'all saw in the water? Was it like it was really far. Was people's houses flooded, or are they used to it going up that high?
I heard there were some houses flooded. A friend of mine actually caught 2 fish under a fish cleaning station. Oh. I think that's the craziest thing I've heard.
Those fish were flirting with disaster.
Yeah.
I know.
Down on the south end, there was a ramp that was flooded, and the parking lot was flooded. And I'd heard stories of people catching them off picnic tables and this and that. So I eased up in the parking lot, and it was like 4 foot deep. Threw a spinnerbait, and it was a small fish, but mission accomplished. I caught a fish out of a flooded parking lot, So
Called it the handicap spot.
Yeah, that's what my
Nice.
buddy said. Not beside the handicap sign, but yeah, it was
The craziest
crazy.
thing I think I saw was a giant snapping turtle, an alligator snapping turtle.
I
It was
saw
probably
one too.
3 feet across. And she came up to the surface and was just sitting there. And at first, I just saw her head sticking out, and her head was sticking out probably 10 inches out of the water.
Jesus.
And yeah, I looked over, and it was just one of those things. Like, you see a lot of turtle heads, but something that big out sticking out of the water, that's not your first thought. And then I look over, I'm looking, and her back comes out of the water. You see those big spikes on her shell sticking up, and I was like, oh my God.
That's a regular old Bowser, man.
It was giant. I have a video of it. But that was the craziest thing. And then all the bald eagles, that was really cool. Saw a lot of bald eagles.
Yeah.
America.
I had heard for the first time an alligator bellowing, and I never saw it, but it sounded like it was probably 25 feet long. It was loud and intimidating, and just like Scarberry, I look later on in the day, I know now why they call them alligator snapping turtles, because the head didn't come up first, the back did. And I thought, it looked just like the back of an alligator. And this thing's like 20 feet from me. And I was like, and then the head comes up, she takes a breath. And I was like, good Lord, what a freaking turtle.
I'm probably more scared of that turtle than that alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had them pop at the boat before. Like, and
Really?
I've seen not big ones, just small ones out here in the creeks and rivers. But like, I've seen videos of guys like sticking stuff in the big ones' beaks and letting them snap. I was legit scared. Like, man, one of those could take a chunk or at least pop a hole in the hull of this thing, and down we go.
A few years ago, I caught a common snapper, but I caught it on a spro rat. And man, it was at night, and I got it up there was like a pontoon boat sitting there, and I got it up on the back of this pontoon boat. I have a video of it just like going crazy, just trying to bite the crap out of me. But yeah, man, they're intimidating animals when they get that big. This one was huge.
What Jim's talking about, I heard for the first time. Like, I've heard an alligator bellow, like at the zoo. The Birmingham Zoo used to have a really nice alligator exhibit. I don't know if they still do, and you'd hear them do it. But when we fished Lake Fork for the Bassmaster event, we put in off the side of the road, and Adam Reiser had told me, he's like, dude, there's some big gators in that area, just be careful. And I'm standing waist deep in the water, like trudging through the mud to put the boat in. I literally get in the boat, move down like 10 yards, and we hear one bellow, and then I hear babies. And I was like, great. Well, we just kept fishing and never thought nothing about it. The next day that we were there, I saw that alligator, and they were telling me that it was like 14 feet, like the locals that know about it, and that the lady that owns a property next to where we put in, her and her husband hand feed it every night off the bridge. Lord, I was like, dude, awesome. This is terrible. And I did not fish there for the tournament just on that fact. But we saw it, and dude, laying on the ground, that thing was still 3 feet tall. It was so fat.
Dang.
No, I'm good. So I feel you. Mm-mm.
All right, Brian, tell us about your tournament, man.
Oh man, so I got on Rayburn about a little bit before 10 on Friday, and I just got on the water and just started scanning as much as I could. I picked. Luckily, I was able to find a place to launch in the main area that I had scouted, on the Navionics and stuff like that. And I was very fortunate to find a place to launch there. There was actually a lot of other guys in that area, which was surprising to me. But I just got to work. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go up in the trees. I knew that's what majority of the people were going to be doing. So I wanted to stay out on that old bank line And I know that hay grass holds a lot of fish, man. So that's what I was looking for. I just kept scanning the points. I would pull up Google Earth on my phone and see where those mats of hay grass were, and look for the little unusual areas of that hay grass. And I would go through and scan them and see if there's any fish on them. And I found 2 areas that had fish. I actually saw a lot of fish over the hydrilla too. So in practice, I caught a lot on the hydrilla with spinner baits, rattle traps. Like Jim was saying, I wasted a lot of time chasing after those stupid spots, man. You'd pull up a live scope and look down there in like 25 feet of water right on the edge of that grass, and you'd see these huge balls of bait swimming around, and you'd see a school of 5 or 6, dots on the screen just chasing, just going crazy, man. And so I hooked up a 5-inch swim bait with a 1-ounce jig head and just creeped it down through that grass, just knowing any minute I was just going to get rocked. But man, it was just bump, 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 and then you'd finally accidentally hook one, and those spots are relentless. It was insane. So
yeah,
it's
it's hard to dodge them, because when you do get a good one, the fight's so good, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the fish on Rayburn, spots or largemouth, are one of the hardest fighting fish I've caught in a long time. I hooked one in on the first day of the tournament on a chatterbait, and I'm throwing 15-pound test, a 7'11" medium heavy rod, and I hook into this fish, and it felt like a 7-8 pounder, and it gets up and it jumps, and I'm like, what happened there, and it goes back down and it starts stripping drag. I mean, it was like a 17. It wasn't a dink, but man, I I couldn't believe that it was like stripping drag off that reel. And I checked my drag and I was like, it's not loose. These things are just insane. And I did that many, many times where I'd hook a fish and I'm like, oh, that's the one. And it would jump and it'd be a 15-incher. It's like, what's going on here? These things are on steroids. Some sort of factory must have flooded and spilled chemicals out there.
River smallmouth do the same thing, man.
Really?
You'll hook river smallmouth in shallow water, and it'll, like, same thing, man. You'll be stripping drag and be like, dude, I just caught, a football Lake Erie style smallmouth here or something like that, and it'll be like 14 inches and blow your mind. It'll be that big around. Just a little striped missile, but it will wear your gear out and make you think. I mean, I've got some really cool video where if I never pulled the fish up, you'd never know that it was tiny. But like pulling the boat around and all sorts of stuff for a mediocre fish, but still fun.
So I wasted a little bit of time doing that. I wanted to find multiple different things I could do on tournament day just in case. But realistically, most of the fish that I found, the decent fish that I found, were in the hydrilla and hay grass. So Saturday came around. I messed around on I found a really steep bank that it was probably only about 10-15 feet between the tree line and the actual bank, and I was really expecting to be able to pick up a couple fish in that spot with a frog or a buzzbait or something like that. So I fished that for maybe 30-45 minutes, didn't get a bite, didn't hear a blow up, really didn't see anything, so I abandoned that pretty quick and hopped over to the first point. And I was throwing a spinnerbait, a chatterbait, rattle trap, stuff like that, and I was getting bit, but they weren't committing like they were in practice. In practice they would hit it and it would be down their throat. They would be swallowing it. But the only thing they were really hitting was the spinnerbait, and I'd get a lot of bumps and not hook up. So I had a ribbon-tail worm that if I saw something on a live scope, I would kind of make a little targeted cast with that ribbon-tail, and that was really getting some good bites here and there. And so I decided to just start casting that thing around and just reeling it across the tops of the grass, like real slow. And when I started doing that, I caught a 19 and a half and a 19 and a quarter on the first day. pretty close together, within an hour.
Like a big ribbon tail.
And so
you were just weightless on the top, top.
No. This was out in like 15 feet of water. It was like an 8-inch ribbon tail with a 1/4 ounce weight. And so just real slow, just getting it to barely tick the tops of the hay grass and hydrilla, and there were a couple areas where there was a little gap where there was just, bare bottom between, and I would kind of work it slow through there, pick up a couple fish in there too. So that worked out.
Weight, just so it wouldn't get stuck in the grass.
What was that?
Why the 1/4 ounce weight, just so it wouldn't get stuck in the grass?
Yeah, 1/4 seemed like the best. I actually, it was a 1/4 ounce weight with a tungsten bead, so it was probably more like 3/16 or something like that, or what was it, 5/16. So it's probably a little bit heavier than a 1/4, but that weight was just perfect for being able to work it really slow and stay down there and not get bogged down in that hay grass, because that hay grass is really tough to fish when it's flooded like this. A lot of things want to get buried in it, and it's not like hydrilla where you can rip a bait out of it. Once you get down in that hay grass, you usually come back with a big chunk of it, so you really wanted to kind of stay up above it as much as you could, and that 1/4 ounce was working perfect. I tried a 3/8 a little bit and a 1/2 ounce, and those were just way too much. I just had to reel them way too fast. But the second day, I caught the 219s on the same point in the same little time period. And so I kind of knew that I needed to capitalize on that, because Saturday I was hopping around a lot, trying to, figure different things out, trying to see what was working, what was not. I was still kind of practicing on Saturday, because I knew I needed to figure something out a little bit better than I had it. But so Sunday I just stuck with what I found, and I only brought 5 rods with me on Sunday, whereas I had 13 with me on Saturday. So I narrowed it down a lot. But yeah, so I was throwing that ribbon tail, caught the 22.5 about 8 o'clock, and then when I got her in the boat, I realized she had a big red claw sticking out of her throat. And so started thinking, and I had thrown a red rattle trap around. So I threw a red rattle trap around for a little bit longer, didn't get nothing. And then I knew I had a red flipping jig. And so I was like, well, let me put like a green pumpkin trailer on this and just swim it over that grass. And man, I put that on, I think 3 casts later, I had the 21. And then maybe another hour later, I had that 19. And so that made it happen real quick. And then middle of the day on Sunday, that the wind just went flat calm. The sun came out, and my bite almost completely died. I was catching those little 13, 14, 15 inchers, but my smallest fish at that point was a 16.25. And man, I just kept casting and casting and casting and casting and casting and trying to call that fish, because I knew Jim was going to come in with a pretty heavy bag, man. I just knew it. He knocked Guillermo out the first day. So I just knew I needed to call that 16.25, but it didn't happen. And fortunately for me, Jim didn't find that big one he needed. So I got pretty lucky there.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Cool. Definitely. Sounds like all of y'all sound like y'all fished very thoroughly. So hats off. Y'all had a lot of detail to your tactic, which is always fun to hear about. And before we get off of that, Caleb, I wanted to hear about your big fish, that 23.
Yeah, that was kind of like Brian was talking about that 22.5, and I was throwing a little flipping call and threw it next to a big tree. And when you've been catching a bunch of those little 10, 11, 12 inchers all day, and you can feel the difference when a big fish like that picks up the bait. And I set the hook hard, and he came out trying to spit that hook, and When you've been catching a bunch of dinks like that all day, it's definitely get your blood
It's
going.
different.
And I think that was the only, yeah, I think that's the only fish all week that I actually used my net to get in the kayak, and I'm glad I did, because when I got him in there, I mean, I didn't have to put any pressure at all to get that hook out of
Dude,
his
it's
mouth.
mind
But
blowing how often that happens.
yeah, it's I kept it pinned, and I set the hook hard on it when it hit, but it just, when it's going through the roof of its mouth like that, and it had a good chance to try to fight me, and the area I was fishing was just thick vegetation. I could feel him running into those sticks and things like that. I just kept him pinned, kept pressure on him, and got him in the boat as quick as I could. But yeah, that I was kind of getting to a lull in the day right before I caught that one, where I was starting to not necessarily doubt what I was doing, but just kind of wonder if I could go try other things to catch bigger fish. And when I got him, I was like, okay, no, I'm doing the right thing. The fish are just so spread out that it's just trying to find those bigger ones. And so I was thankful to get that fish. And really just one fish like that kind of kept me up where it did. And that's what kind of had me worried going into day two, because all it took is one phone like that, or one, sorry, I just saw Jim message the group about a phone. One fish like that, and it would have changed the scoring for anybody. Day one, there was a lot of people in that mid 80s to high 80s range, and one good kicker fish like that can make or break you in
Boom
the
you up through
tournament.
the
So
rankings.
I was
So
to get that one. I did have another big one blow up. I had a crawl kind of on a tree limb and just barely dangling in the water, and I just saw another one of those big mouths come out, and it missed it, never did get the bait. But I was glad to get that one.
So a flipping jig was kind of your go-to.
Yeah, I pretty much. I guess I didn't talk about it. I went into it, and first thing Saturday morning, I threw a few different things. I threw a rattle trap, chatterbait, spinner bait, top water. I messed around with a few things, but coming into it in my mind, I was going to go back, get deep in the sticks, get to the places boats couldn't get to, water that's I knew fish would be moving up into, and they were spread out. Everybody was catching them everywhere. And I got back deep in that stuff, and once I kind of figured out that they were going to bite that little flipping crawl for me, I threw it all day, the rest of the day Saturday, and I threw it pretty much all day Sunday. Well, I say pretty much. I threw it all day Sunday, and I committed to that. It's something I love to throw, and I knew as long as I could keep that bait in the water and keep pitching at all these good areas, I was going to catch fish. And I didn't want to, at least in my mind, I didn't want to have to try to second guess myself on why this may or may not be working, trying different things. I just stuck to one thing and fished it hard all day, and it ended up.
And it worked.
But yeah, it worked. And fish were so spread out. And
it's funny that you say, how that one hit, how it thumped it. Man, the 22 that I caught hit it just like all the other little ones. It was just a tink tink, a little double tap, and I swung, and it was just a log, didn't move.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the fish that I caught all hit the same, just real soft. And I had a lot of fish on that worm that would tink tink, and I would kind of let them wait for them to load up, and they would never load up. It's like they hit it and spit it real quick.
Yeah.
So I was fishing a very popular area, unbeknownst to me when I started. So I'd imagine those fish get hammered on, even though they've had kind of less pressure for a while because of the flooding water. But it definitely seemed like those fish were very, very conditioned to things. You had to be very particular with them. So I don't know if you guys experienced that in y'all's area, but
yeah, a couple of mine I had to, tick try to let them run, because I was throwing a worm too. 90% of 90% of the fish I caught was either on a 10-inch ribbon-tail worm or a mag hit worm, Texas rig, dragging it through the grass like you were. And they would swallow it almost. I mean, there was 3 or 4 times I had to pull the forceps out, and remove a hook. And they swam off. I never saw them float. So, I was a good doctor.
Yeah, man. I had so many fish where I'd feel them thump thump, and I'd feel weight, and I'd set the hook, and you'd feel a little bit of weight for half a second, and then there would be nothing.
Yeah.
And you get the worm back, and you'd have the scrape marks from the hook back.
Mm-hmm.
They were real weird. I think, if I don't know what I could have done differently, but I definitely think I had 100 inches of fish there that I could have hooked if I would have figured out how to get that in them. Because when that 22.5 hit exactly like those little ones were, I was like, man, you just sit
How
there
many
and
big
think
ones did I
back.
miss?
Yeah, you sit there and think back, you're like, man, all those little tiny double taps that you usually think of being a small fish. I don't know how many of those could have been an 18 plus, and
Right.
you're kind of sitting there, dogging yourself. And
Man, don't beat yourself up. You got the big check, man.
I know, man. But I wanted to break 100 inches so bad. I was just like, and I just I fished the throwdown for Texas last year. It's like a big state tournament we have here, and it was like a road runner, so we could fish 3 or 4 different lakes in a row. And I had a pretty good lead most of the day over a friend of mine, Jacob Moeller, and they shut those standings off for the last hour. And I think I was maybe like 2 inches above him, and I got to the weigh-in and I looked at him and I said, "Did you make a call at the last minute?" And I just had this feeling, and he's like, "Yeah, I did." And so he knocked me out in the last minute. So this whole tournament, the whole day Sunday, that was just rolling through my head, and God, I'm not gonna let this happen again. I'm not gonna let this happen again. I got to figure out some way to get rid of this 16 1/4. I got to, even though I had like a 10-inch lead over Guillermo. I just knew that something was gonna go, good for somebody else, and they were gonna knock me out. It was just, and then I didn't find out till I think it was almost 7 o'clock. So from 3 to 7, I was just like sitting there, just freaking out. Like, what happened?
I've been blowing AJ's phone up. Like, AJ, I need to know. I came up with some excuse like, I gotta know now, or I'm leaving, or
I have
something.
a heart condition, AJ. All right. Well, it's been an hour. We don't want to hold y'all up too long. Before we let anybody go, we want to give you the opportunity to shout out any sponsors, anybody that makes fishing easier for you. Jim, we'll start with you, bud.
Okay. Dugout Bait and Tackle down in Marietta, Georgia. Is our local Hobie dealer, and it's a unique. He's got it going on. It's a unique kayak shop because it's a full-fledged tackle shop first and foremost, and then we've got a demo pond, Hobie shack with all the boat, a lot of the boats, all the models in it. So anybody can come down, check them out. All the guys inside the shop or know everything about a Hobie kayak. Any given day you're down there, you'll run into me or Jason Alford, Clint Henderson, Steve Owens. There's Ron Lambert. There's just a bunch of us, and the place is just a fun place to hang out. It's kind of like an old barber shop. A lot of fishermen in there. Not all kayak fishermen. That's that. And then Picasso Lures, Dan Vesuvio has been really good to me with lures, and then Matt Newman with iRod. Some of the best rods I've used. I love them, and my wife, that's a given. wouldn't be for her. You know, she'll kick me in the butt when I need it. So
I'll tell you what, everybody
I
needs
got
to
some
follow
good
Jim.
people.
If you don't follow Jim already, he part times as a food blogger. Like, man, you love some good food.
Man, I you know, I come into a town. If I'm like coming home, I started getting hungry, and I Googled, you know, checked my route home. Jackson, Mississippi. There is a place that had 700 and something reviews. Average was 4.5 stars. It's called Bully's Soul Food Restaurant. Now I put it down. I'm going in there, and route takes me way off the beaten path back into a neighborhood, and the building is iconic looking. You know, it's not fancy. There's cars there. I go in. It's some of the best soul food I've ever had in my life, and you know, that's just part of the adventure. Which, you know, I'm always up for an adventure like that, and I love to eat too, good food, and I'll go out of my way to find it. You can bet that.
That's half the fishing trip for me. I spend more time looking for good places to eat than I do pre-fishing and looking for spots.
Right. And I tell you what, Florence, Alabama, and Muscle Shoals has some of the best restaurants, local stuff, and a congregation of them. I can't. They got so many good barbecue joints there. So anybody gets a chance to go to the Hobie that's coming to Pickwick in September. You'll see what I'm talking about. There is some
and the Bassmaster. We got the Bassmaster in July.
And that Mexican restaurant, what is it? Rosie's? Is that what it's called?
Rosie.
I've never eaten there.
Oh, it's for a Mexican. It's as good as it gets in Alabama.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have a whole show on food.
Come on,
we could have a whole show on food in Florence. I live like 30 minutes from Florence. I feel you.
It's JP's show though. Off the wall. Yeah, he'll have to have you on there, man.
Yeah,
you have to change it to paddle, fin, and grub.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, I know you'll listen to this. Another segment. We'll have nothing but food segment. The Grub Hub.
Oh yeah. I'm a big cook. I like cooking stuff. My wife actually bought me a dry aged ribeye when I got back Sunday. So I cooked that yesterday, man, and that was amazing.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention. I came out from Georgia alone, you know, by myself. I camped by myself, fished by myself. Me and Adam Riser did launch at a place together. He went his way, but anyway, it was, you know, I was pretty much alone. And AJ sends me the message. I'm in the top 12, so I end up at the pavilion, and I get out, and I'm walking across the parking lot, and I look up, and there's this lady standing there, and I don't know if you guys know Clint Henderson, but he's one of my best friends, and he's a great fisherman, great dude. But he's from my hometown, and I think, God, she looks just like Meredith, Clint's wife. And then behind her is his two kids, and then there's Clint, you know. But they were on their way to Possum Kingdom, and they make a detour down to Sam Rayburn, you know, to be there for me, and that was
heck yeah.
I mean, that was totally awesome, you know.
Makes you feel good.
Scarberry, that's who I was sitting with at the that crew there at the picnic table, as my buddy from Rome, and that made my day, you know, coming in second, tournament champions, and then one of my best friends showing up with his family, just set it apart from anything I've ever experienced.
Awesome. All right, Caleb, how about you, man?
Now, first of all, I think my family, they always follow and watching tournaments, and they babysit my dog as I go off and travel around to these tournaments. So I appreciate them for doing that. Pride Fishing Rods, Work with them, use their rods, and some best rods I've ever used. I used their rod all this weekend, and so for me, it was that 7 foot extra heavy that I was able to get in them tight places and still have some backbone to rip them fish out. Billy Kistler makes some good rods here in America, and I absolutely love them. And that, and then I guess I'll give a shout out to my Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League, our local club around here. Quite a few of our guys showed out for that. A couple of them did pretty good, and I think Jeff Isham got a big bass. John Mooney got 5th place, and they were all real supportive of us and cheering us on as we fish. So I got to give them guys a shout out.
Very cool. And Brian, how about you, man?
Well, I'm working on some sponsorships right now, but nothing's set in stone. But there are some people and places that I appreciate. Especially ACK is one of them. They're one of our best local kayak shops. They're always there for our guys. When we need stuff fixed, repaired, whatever, they got it. They also put on Cats. And Cats is what got me going in tournaments again. It gave me the opportunity to fish tournaments, close to my house and on some of the lakes that I know and some lakes that I didn't know. And so I really appreciate them putting the time and effort in to give us those opportunities. If it wasn't for Cats, I wouldn't have had the confidence to go try my hand at a national event. So thank those guys for sure. The other thing is I use a lot of 13 fishing rods and reels, and everybody says it, but I was making really long casts, and they definitely helped me. They definitely helped me. I was wearing a NRS shirt that it's one of the best fishing shirts I've ever used. It's really soft and stretchy. It's got the thumb holes, so you don't have to wear gloves. Protects your hands. It's got the built-in buff and hood. I love that shirt.
It's the variant hoodie.
What was that?
It's called the variant hoodie shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
I have like 5 of them, dude. I love that shirt.
Man. I won one at Cats, and I was like, I fell in love the first time I wore it out on the water. I had to go buy another one, and I need to get a couple more just to have them because, man, they are so comfortable. I tried to get a Columbia shirt that was kind of had the same features, but it's not even close.
No, that's probably like their most popular selling thing other than a PFD.
Yeah,
those shirts are like hot tickets, man.
They knocked it out of the park. They really did. And then I also want to thank Hobie, man. That Hobie Pro Angler makes fishing so much easier. I started out in a paddle kayak, and it was always a little frustrating, and I always got off the water with a little bit of an attitude, But as soon as I got in that Pro Angler, it everything changed. It made everything so much easier. So that helped a lot. And then of course, I got to thank my wife. She lets me do what I want and chase my dreams and watches these crazy kids while I'm out of town, and it's not easy, and I couldn't do it without her. So I really appreciate what she does.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate y'all. Good luck the rest of the year, and I'm sure we'll see Caleb again. He keeps coming back on here, and good luck to all 3 y'all at the TOC later this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me know if you want me back. I'd love to.
Sounds good, man. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have you on. Thank y'all.
All right. You guys have a good one.
Later.
See ya.
All right, man. I'll let you. What are we doing to give away this rod stager?
So I got the picture right here. I'm gonna show it real quick.
Bring it up. Ooh.
So this is the Flex rod stager. As you can see, it does a horizontal adjustment to position it on the gunnel how you want it. And there's a couple other pictures.
Yeah, you can
it holds
around the other way too if you want it to be inside the gunnel or outside the gunnel.
Oh yeah, you can really you get a big range of flexibility, but there it is holding a paddle and a rod. You can see, how the reels sit in there, and I can vouch for these things. I got to test these for a couple of months before the ones I tested didn't even have the horizontal adjustment, and your rods stay put. The openings are big enough that there's no fumbling to get your rod out to, start casting and fishing. And as you can see right there, they're selling for $39.99 for the pair. But these are going to be free to use. So I've been thinking about it while we were doing the show on how to do it. So I think what we're going to do is this show will air Wednesday.
Tomorrow, yeah.
We'll give everybody time to hear it, so I'll probably check on it by Friday. What we want you to do is like the Paddle and Fin Facebook and Instagram pages, like the Yak Gadget Facebook and Instagram pages, and then contact me and Dan. You don't even have to message anything like particular, no sentences. Just say Rod Stager, here, me, but you have to message both of us.
Well, here, say Yak Gadget.
There you go, Yak Gadget. That way we know what it's about. Yep. So again, like the Paddle and Fin pages on Facebook and Instagram, like Yak Gadget pages on Facebook and Instagram, message myself and Dan on Facebook. And I will, or he will, whoever gets the first one that does everything, will reach out to the winner, get your information, and we'll ship it straight to you.
Okay. So the very first one to message both of us gets it, right?
Yep.
So if
when two people message us, I'll go in and I'll check and make sure that you liked all the stuff you were supposed to like. If you didn't, I'm gonna move on to the next person. So
if you're waking up early tomorrow, you got a good chance of winning. Just message.
Pull your truck over on your way to work. Boom, 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 boom. Give them to me.
Jimmy's in Athens. If you have to search it on Facebook, he's in Athens, Alabama, and I'm in Hoover, Alabama, so you can search it that way. Daniel Perry at Hoover, Alabama, and Jimmy Skinner, Athens. And then you'll be able to find us. But yeah, do that, and you win a $40 product. Should be great.
Awesome. I mean, they will fit basically every track system. The kind that Dan has, yours is identical to that picture, right?
Yeah, same thing.
I'm not sure if that one, I know that the new canoe ones are very specific to the hull shape, but I can make you a promise. If you get it and it doesn't fit on your boat, I can get in touch with John at Yak Gadget. We'll get you one that fits. I'll make it happen.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about a bunch of tournaments last weekend. We're going to talk about them. We had a MAKBF. They were on Upper Chesapeake Bay, 35 anglers. Alex Foyka won with 85 3/4. CJ Espy in second with 85 1/4. And Sterling Leach in third with 83 1/2. So good limits up there, Upper Chesapeake. Sevierville, Tennessee, Smallmouth King Tournament. 60 anglers, MLF styles. They didn't add them up on Tourney X, so you don't get a total. But Jordan Marshall pretty much killed everybody. Second, Tyler Morris, he did good too. And David Williams got third, so congrats to him. Central Carolina kayak fishing, they were on Sharon Harris, 50 anglers. Stephen Bracey in first with 97 1/4. It's a huge limit. Joey Sullivan in second with 94 1/4, and Chris Edwards with 93 1/2. So big limits on Sharon Harris. Mountain State Kayak Anglers, their Greenbrier tournament. I guess they're doing it at the resort. I don't know. I know the Saints had their summer camp, spring training camp there one year. So that's all I know about Greenbrier. It's fancy, super expensive place. 71 anglers, Bill Simmons, 72 1/2. Jared Terry with 71 and Jordan Ross in third with 67. Michigan's, I don't know who ran this, but it was called the Michigan's No Motor Charity Tournament, benefiting Make-A-Wish, 33 anglers. Stephanie, I don't know if it's Stefan or Stephanie. One of y'all won it, Stephanie Snow, 86 1/2. Noah Riley in second with 84, and David Lesser with 68 1/2. Natural State Kayak Anglers, they were on Pumpback. 50 anglers. Ryan Paskowitz, there you go, 89 1/4. Josh King in second with 86 1/4. And Kyle Long with also 86 1/4. Saltwater KFT Hook and Ladder. Talking about a saltwater tournament. It was 2 redfish and a speckled trout. Our very own paddle and fin chasing the tide host Dustin Nichols won that. His redfish were 27 3/4, 27 3/4, and a 16-inch trout for 71.5. Poco Cedillo was in second with 26 and 25 3/4 and 19.5-inch trout, 71 1/4, and Jason Trevino with 23 3/4, 22.5, and a 18.5-inch spec. So, and he had 64 3/4. Congrats to him. And last but not least, Urban Anglers of LA. They were on Santa Fe Dam, 32 anglers, 3 fish limit. Josh Bolin won with 54.5. Arnold Velasquez with 48, and Taddeo Ronquillo with 45.5. So congrats to everybody this week. There's a lot more tournaments, but I think I don't know, just the numbers were a little bit suppressed. A lot of tournaments like at that 20, 22 mark. So yeah, a lot of people were close, but didn't hit our 30 angler threshold.
We do this because with the blowing up of kayak fishing and prime time of the year, we'd have to have a whole other episode to talk about the tournament last weekend, because I don't think
there was one more tournaments I would have talked about if we did one between 20 and 30.
I know. I think it was 3 weeks ago. There were literally like 2.5 pages of tournaments from that one weekend, and we would have been here all night.
It's a lot.
Yep.
All right, everybody. We appreciate y'all being on. Say a prayer for the Efird family. It's really sad to go. At least he caught a good fish on his last day, and I wasn't friends with him, but scrolling through his Facebook, he was loved, and I'm sure his family is really missing him. So if you can get in on that tournament, that'd be great. Or just say a prayer.
I'll see if I can find the link to that on Fishing Chaos and post it up on the Paddle and Fin page.
Cool. Well, we appreciate y'all. Be safe and wear your PFDs.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to Jigmasters.